I tried to live the life other people expected of me.
You know, God is love, and love is God.
People do hurtful things and don't realize how much it hurts.
When I was growing up, I knew gay people, which at the time they did not call gay. Well, they called them faggots, and I do not look like a bunch of sticks.
Well, for a former Jew who became an Episcopalian, when a woman becomes a priest and then a bishop, she's a little short-sighted not to understand the same-sex issue is tearing apart the Episcopal Church.
I knew I couldn't live life with one foot in each world. I could live without a sexual relationship with a woman, but I couldn't live without a sexual relationship with a man.
I'm not being an ostrich. I really believe it doesn't matter if people know. Why rock the boat?
When I came out and met Pat, my whole entire life turned upside down. I mean, my divorce, my foster daughter went back to live with her mother, Pat and I came out together, I left teaching, I began seminary, I mean, everything just went pff, pff, pff.
I was married for 17 years. I was married to a police officer. I have 3 daughters and 5 grandchildren. My marriage was an abusive one, verbally and emotionally abusive. And when it became physically abusive to my girls, we divorced. It was only really till then that I was ever able to really explore who I was and made me take a good look at myself.
It was like all the pieces I was trying to make fit. It was like they all rearranged themselves. And you know what? They fit. That's what made my call to ministry work, because I was finally honest with myself, with God, and with Pat.
Shortly after my divorce, there was a minister's prayer group that I was invited to join. And the first meeting was held at a woman minister's home in Connecticut. And when I walked in and met her, something snapped. I was suddenly very aware of feelings that I had never felt before, and they were very unsettling.
When we first moved into our house, we bought it a year after we met, we were both still very closeted. We each had a bedroom in this house. We pretended we each had a bedroom. Sometimes we'd go in and turn the lights on, other times we'd turn them off.
You'd go into your bedroom and turn the lights on when it was time to go to bed. Then you'd turn them off so the neighbors would think you were going to bed in that room.
I immediately talked to my therapist about these new feelings, and he advised me just to take notice and to allow whatever I was experiencing to happen. So when I went back to that prayer group, I found the same woman minister was very attractive. So I never went back after that second time.
It was a time when you couldn't be honest about who you were, especially those of us who were in ministry. I am called to ministry, but if I had been honest about who I was then, that would not have been an option. Tough line to walk.
6 months later, I receive a call from this same woman minister. She wants some information on a church. She's being interviewed to be a minister, and seeing I was a pastor myself and my father had been a pastor, she thought I could share some information. But I never called her back. A few weeks later, I'm attending a conference and I'm going out to my car, and a woman from this particular congregation comes up to me and says, "Oh, we are so excited. We have a candidate for our congregation, and it's a woman." I said, "That's wonderful. I'll keep you and your church in my prayers as you complete your process." She said, "I wonder if you know her." Then she tells me her name. I nearly fell off the stairs. "Yes, I know her. She's lovely. I'm very excited for you." And I get out to my car, and I sit in it. Well, I know she's going to be moving to Rhode Island. So I attend the next statewide meeting I know she's going to be at. And I reintroduced myself and invited her to lunch. And we have been partners for 20 years. I mean, it just happened. It wasn't anything that... Never in my wildest dreams.
It was after a couple of years in Massachusetts that I found a small church in South County. And I remember it was Sunday. It was Martin Luther King Sunday. And I was working on my sermon, and in one of my religious texts, there was a list of those people who are still oppressed and how it is our duty to continue the work. And on that list was gay and lesbian. I don't think bisexual was a part of it. That was 1992-93. But there it was, gay and lesbian. I went back and forth about whether to include it in my sermon or not. I decided to leave it in.
I have no tension around my spirituality about it, because if it's love, if it's a wholesome, nurturing, soulmate level of relationship, then that's how we are called to live. That's not sinful. I think what the church is doing around this issue is what's sinful, not the relationship, not the connections.
After the service, I had a meeting set up with the committee that worked with me on worship, and they challenged me. They wanted to know if I was a lesbian. They knew about Pat. She had come to my installation. That was a tough moment. I worked with them for about a half an hour before I answered their question. I said, if I answer your question, you're going to have to deal with the answer. Whichever way it goes, are you ready to deal with that?
Do my girls know? Does my family know? Well, if they don't, if they haven't put it together by now, whose business is it anyway? We've been together for 20 years. We own a home together. We travel together. There's nothing we don't do together. So besides rubbing their noses in it, that's the way it is. Then again, that's labeling. And I don't want to put a label on it. Not being an ostrich about it, I sincerely believe it doesn't matter.
The week after that sermon, there had been an earthquake in California. And now there were 4 people in the congregation that knew that I was gay. So the sermon for the next Sunday was about what do you do when your whole world is shaking and everything you believed in is turned upside down.
The church I'm in now, when they interviewed me, I said, you need to know I live with my dog, my cat, and my best friend. While the church isn't open and affirming, they're not with their noses in my window trying to see what's going on in my house, in my life.
It was then that the church, the entire congregation, began a process. There were meetings for several months at the church, facilitated by another minister.
Well, the issue of whether to resign or not had come up. That was part of our conversation.
And I said no, because I am the same person you hired. Only now you know something about me that you didn't know before. But I am the same person. I have the same gifts. I am the same person you called. So no, I am not going to leave.
I know Brenda. We were in seminary together at Andover Newton Theological. We sat together in my office the night the committee of the church was deciding whether to keep her.
So the day came.
And the deacons voted to recommend to the congregation that I be asked to leave.
I've been first called to my ministry in 1984, 2 years before my ordination. It was a church in South County where I was ordained after graduating from the seminary. I was there 9.5 years before going to an inner city church in Pawtucket, then 3 years later to a church outside Providence.
Before the vote, Brenda had decided that if it would divide the church, she would just resign. She didn't want to cause any problems for the congregation.
I had been there about 2.5 years when one night the committee of the church had a meeting to decide whether to extend my contract or not. I said, why? They said, well, it's not because we don't like you, because we do. We like you a lot. And it's not that you're not a good preacher, because you're the best preacher we ever had. It's just that we don't think you're a good minister. And I said, what's that all about? And they wouldn't give me any specifics. But it was around the same time that my partner was having troubles in the church. She ministered in the northern part of the state. There was something, there was this buzz that we were suspect. So I resigned from that church. They never came right out and said it. It was just talk. So that's when I came here.
I decided that if it was less than 75%, I would leave, because it would be way too divisive. So the day came, and the congregation voted against the deacons. They wanted me to stay, and it was way, way over 75%, and I stayed for another 5 years.
My prayer is for peace around this issue. Let people live the lives they are called to live. Love who they are called to love. The church need not be a place of cruelty, but of acceptance. God wants us to love one another, and there are no conditions on that love.
This was a small church in South County. Who would have thought they would be so open-minded? The tolerance in Rhode Island. Roger Williams, one of the members of my congregation, said, look, this is you, this is your life, okay? This isn't me, it's not my life, but it's okay, no big deal.
Tis a gift to be simple, tis a gift to be free, tis a gift to come round where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in a place just right, we'll be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we shan't be ashamed to turn, 'twill be our delight, till by turning, turning we come round right.
November 29th, 1993. The day I was diagnosed with HIV.
I don't want a yard full of fags. As far as I'm concerned, they can ship them all off to an island and let them die of AIDS.
And he comes out of the bedroom. When he came out of the bedroom, he was so gaunt. It was obvious that he had AIDS.